Okay, so here's the thing. Sometimes there is a subject I want to discuss on the podcast. I think it's important enough to discuss. I think it's worth saying. I think it's worth discussing or sparking some thought or giving you a different perspective or any of those sorts of things. But I don't think it's worth taking several hours out of Malky and Laura's social and or family time in order to do it. But I do still want to talk about it. So what I've decided to do is Beer Christianity Shots. And this is the first one of those. They're going to be short episodes. They're going to be probably just me or a different format from us getting together and actually chatting with a guest or with each other. And they're going to cover probably more topical things. I don't know, maybe biblical things, whatever. Just giving us the freedom to actually do that. So this would be the first shot, wherever you come from. Might be called something different. And I want to talk about the petrol crisis that's been happening in the UK. Some people are saying it's not a crisis. I mean, some absolute loons are saying that it's actually a conspiracy to get rid of petrol that would have gone off that hasn't been used because of the lockdown. I think we can discount that as just, frankly too juicy and too paranoid to be true. But what has been happening is that a lot of people have been super judgy. Even ordinarily non-judgy, ordinarily nice people have been coming out and judging hard when people have gone to the petrol station to buy petrol. What happened was somebody on TV said, because of Brexit, there's probably going to be a fuel shortage. Something like that, okay? And like a run on the banks when there's a crisis of confidence because of something that somebody said, everyone's like, shit, we're not going to be able to get petrol. I don't know if I have enough petrol to do X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to go and buy some. So they had these huge scenes of like massive queues outside lines, is that what you call it in America? Outside petrol stations, gas stations. Not going to translate into American the entire time. Huge queues, massive demand, petrol stations running out of it. At one point, I think a quarter of the petrol stations in Britain were closed. Okay? It's the scenes that, in the 80s they would have said to us, this is what happens under communism. Well, we're not under communism, motherfucker. And it turns out this is what happens under capitalism. And I'm going to tell you why. Because this is not just about Brexit. It is about Brexit. Brexit, by the way, is where the United Kingdom decided to leave the EU and all of its collective bargaining and buying power and all of its free kind of trade routes between things and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a big stan of the EU, by the way, but yeah. Anyway, it was a result of that, I think, probably because what was coming out in the media was this is a result of Brexit because we don't have enough tanker drivers to get the petrol to places in time, particularly when there's an added demand. The reason we don't have enough tanker drivers is because a lot of them were EU nationals and not British nationals, and they are no longer allowed to work in the UK because they need to get special visas. This was all very much denied until the government issued special visas for EU nationals to come and drive our tankers, which suggests to me that it may have something to do with it. But I am not necessarily going to side with the liberals on this and go, you see, it's all about Brexit. I think it's about something more than that. I think it is about our logistics chains. I actually wrote about this in Premier Christianity magazine on their website. You can go and find it, about not judging the people who are panic buying petrol. And what I said in that article was that logistics for retail particularly, but I think for all of our, modern convenience, because it is guided by capitalism, its emphasis on efficiency is not just because it wants to be more efficient, but because it wants to squeeze every last morsel of profit out of the whole kind of retail infrastructure, out of the system of selling you stuff and getting it to the places where you buy it. Which means that supermarkets currently have very little real storage. You used to be able to go to a supermarket and go, oh, can you check in the back? The back is a tiny room. They don't keep a lot of stuff there because they've realized it doesn't really make financial sense for them, or it makes a minuscule amount more financial sense for them to have the stuff just delivered every single day so that all of their space can be used for sell. But the whole thing is aimed at hyper efficiency in order to make maximum profit in a way that, to us you wouldn't think like it would make much of a difference. But when you're doing it over thousands of stores and millions of items, even a slightly incremental increase would make a really big difference. Like in that movie whose name escapes me for the moment that they just did about the guys who were doing a fiber optic pipeline between two cities so that they could get like half a nanoseconds advantage when they were doing stock trades because that was going to make them billions of dollars. It's that kind of level of stuff. And it is all motivated ultimately by capitalism. So, I know this is me going like, oh, what a big surprise. Jonty's blaming capitalism. I am shocked. But the reason I say this is because that is why this is happening with the petrol. It's a similar thing. They have zero or very little tolerances built into a system that is just supposed to work, ad infinitum with no real hiccups. So when there is a hiccup, like a crisis of confidence, like an increased demand, there is very little space for them to deal with that. There's very little space for the system to absorb that kind of shock, even a relatively small shock, and then it creates a panic. The panic is created by people panicking, yes, and that's what I was writing about in the article, and that's what I wanted to talk about now, is judging people for panic buying is a dick move. The reason I say this, and the reason I was talking about the supermarkets, is because when the lockdown happened, people were judging the panic buying of basic essentials. Toilet paper, pasta, flour, milk, whatever. Very hard to come by because everybody was freaking out and buying too much. And there became this really popular narrative of, oh, the people doing that are idiots and dickheads. Both. Because they're stupid, because there is enough stuff in the country so they shouldn't be panicking, and they're bastards because they're buying the stuff that there is enough of so that we can't get it. The kind of, disconnect in that logic has escaped a lot of people because I think, we all just love to judge people, particularly if they're other people and they're not us. But I think that's unfair. I think when people panic buy, they're buying by definition because they're afraid. There are going to be people who are going to try and profit from things, for sure. There are going to be people who hoard and who want to price gouge and want to, corner the market on hand sand or whatever. And we saw some people doing that, and those people are in fact dickheads, and we can judge away. I think that's absolutely fine. However, the people who are just like, shit, I don't want to be without toilet paper, that would suck. Or, what's useful if you have a car? Petrol. And if there's not going to be any, I want to be among the people who get some. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to feel or to want. And at this point, what in the world is genuinely essential that would be okay, to buy even though other people need it? Keeping in mind that a lot of the people who are judging those who panic buy stuff that they might actually need, or fairly basic things, are not going to judge billionaires for hoarding wealth, or millionaires for hoarding wealth, or landlords for owning more than one property. Because, if we're talking about hoarding, if we're talking about people need something like, a roof over their heads, surely the real immorality is that. Surely the real immorality is pushing up drug prices for things like insulin because you want to make a profit. Surely the problem is capitalism. I think it is. Obviously, I think it is. But I think our bigger problem right now, maybe not our bigger problem, but our more immediate problem is our willingness to judge ordinary people who are just doing their best rather than a system that puts them in that position. I don't think it's particularly smart. I know the hot take industrial complex, of which I am a paid up member, wants to have something cool to say, and it's so easy to go, the real problem is not the thing that it looks like, it's actually X. And it's so easy to go, other people, because we all think of other people as dummies. But I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's smart, and I do not think it's Christian. I don't think it's Christian to be judging people who act out of fear. Because why are they afraid? Because they have been given so many reasons to believe that the system that we work in is not going to take care of them, that people will make terrible mistakes because their politicians have been lying to them, because the system has been shown to be stacked towards or for people who have money and against people who do not. It's in the name, capitalism. If you have money, you can make money. If you do not have money, it's going to be very difficult to make any kind of reasonable dent in the capitalist system. So I think a more Christian response would be to go, yes, we need to promote selflessness. Yes, we need to promote an altruism and a goodness of spirit that says, I'm not going to be selfish. I'm going to share. I'm not going to take much more than I need. I just think we also need to be a little bit realistic and say, in the case of a panic like a lockdown or a petrol shortage, who knows how much they need? It's such a glib thing to say, don't take more than you need. How the fuck does anybody know what they need? I think we could be a little bit calmer and cooler on people when they're doing that sort of stuff, and slightly less judgy. I say all of this while driving in my car, which has had plenty petrol, and so I haven't needed to panic buy anything. The real question is, should I have been offering my car to other people? And the answer is probably yes. Maybe I should do that. Anyway, I've reached the end of my drive. Thank you for listening. You can catch the rest of Beer Christianity at beerchristianity.libsyn.com. We're on Spotify, Deezer, Twitter. So we're on all the things. Also got a Twitter account, an Instagram account. Love you to check those out. You can even support us by buying us a beer through buymeacoffee.com. It's all at beerchristianity.libsyn.com. Let us know if you like the format of having shorter things. Probably not going to do the driving thing so much, because I have definitely driven down one way the wrong way. Very quiet traffic, so it's not a problem, but maybe it's a little bit distracting for me. So yeah, I'll try and record in a bar next time, although the last time I did that, the sound was terrible. Anyway, you don't need me to ramble anymore. Thanks so much for listening. Love you. Bye!